the show is live, so please comment during the show.
Each week, we empower today's homeschool families with invaluable resources. Texas HomeSchool Convention is more than a podcast show. We're a vibrant community, a gathering of people supporting one another in the incredible journey of raising the next generation of world changers.
Now, grab a seat, get comfortable, and join families throughout the United States and around the world as we dive into today's conversation. Live from Texas is the Texas HomeSchool Conventions Show.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? We'll get the music out of here in just a sec. Awesome. Thank you, John. Good morning. Well, happy Friday. It is so good to be with you this morning. I always say it every Friday, but it feels good to have another week completed. And I just can't thank you enough for joining us on our show every week. It's crazy to think that we are in, this is like show number 13 or 14, which means we've been doing this since January. So for those of you who tune in every week, seriously, thank you. It's awesome. And I so loved getting to meet so many of you at Fort Worth. And I don't know if you've heard, but we are going to be in the Woodlands again for the Texas Homeschool Conventions. My team this morning texted me and they're like, hey, we've got 18 days. And like my head just kind of exploded. It's like, wow, it's time already. So if you have not gotten tickets yet, I think we still have a couple available. So go to convention.thsc.org. Right now, we are running our final flash sale of the year, 50% off all of our tickets. So many of you email me every week. I've got this mom friend who's new or doesn't know if she's going to be homeschooling. Now's the time. This is going to be the cheapest that we have tickets. And Houston's a little bit smaller than Fort Worth. So grab them today because I cannot guarantee that they'll be available in a couple of weeks from now on site. Well, with all that excitement, I wanted to take a moment. This week's guest I'm really excited about. I am sure you've heard of Whitney Newby from Brighter Day Press. She is doing awesome things in the world of homeschooling. And as a millennial mom who's about to start her homeschooling journey, my daughter's 2. I don't know when we'll start. That's the beauty of homeschooling, right? We get to choose. But Whitney is doing awesome things with Brighter Day Press. I got a chance to meet with her so quickly in Fort Worth and then before this call. And she is just such a ray of sunshine and joy. And so before I bring her in to start the conversation, I would love for you to share this, tag a friend that you would like to join in on this conversation, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button or follow button if you're watching from Instagram, YouTube, wherever you're watching from. Good morning. We have Rachel joining us from Houston, Humble area. Looking forward to convention. Rachel, we're excited to see you there too. Whitney's going to be with us and it's going to be awesome. So without further ado, let me bring in my friend, Whitney.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am great. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show with us this week. It was so last minute. You got an email from me on Tuesday, I think, saying my guest had changed. So thanks for being flexible and jumping on.
Of course. Sometimes that works the best, you know?
I'm the same. I used to be like pre-baby and pre-kids, like be the planner that I needed 6 months in advance. And now I'm like, Tuesday of the same week is fine. It's probably better though.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I know that a lot of our audience probably knows who you are, but for those who maybe don't, I always tell people, could you give us like the 30-second elevator pitch of who Whitney is, where you're from, about your family?
Of course. So my name is Whitney Newby, and I am a mother of 4. Our kids are currently 11, 9, 6, and 5. So 3 boys and 1 girl. And I am married. We've been married for 15 years now, and we live in North Fort Worth, Texas. And I'm the founder of Brighter Day Press, and we create gospel-centered, literature-rich curriculum for family discipleship. And we've been doing that for about almost 4 years now. And it is such a joy to create these resources for your families and also to meet in person at these conventions. So we've been homeschooling since 2018-ish. So we're finishing up our 6th year, which is hard to believe. So
I know some people, I hear people say it often, it's the longest days of your life, but the years are so quick once it gets going.
It's so true. It is so true.
So tell me, you have 3 boys. Where's the girl in the middle, like birth order?
Boy, girl, boy, boy. So
okay, she's smack in the middle there.
She can hold her own. We think she's tougher than the boys combined. So yeah, she's a feisty little, sweet little girl. So
I love that. I love to hear that. So it sounds like if you have an 11-year-old, you jumped into homeschooling. Did you start with kindergarten with him, or did you jump in a little later? And what made you want to make that decision?
Yeah. So homeschooling was really never on my radar. I grew up in public and private schools, loved my school experience, had no intention. And actually, when we began homeschooling, I was working almost full time as a registered nurse at a hospital, kind of odd hours at the hospital. And so, again, not on my radar until our 5-year-old at the time, Liam, was already a voracious reader. He had picked it up so fast. I had just gone through, a few little reading lessons, and he picked it up. He was reading through the Magic Treehouse series at 5. And so when we toured the school down the street, they told us very proudly that they would give an iPad. Every kindergartner had access to an iPad all day. And they were really excited about that. And it sent red flags off in my mind because I wanted to preserve his childhood for a little bit longer. I loved that we spent hours a day outside and free play and doing art together and reading amazing books. And so we lived in North Carolina at the time. And in North Carolina, and also in Texas and other places, in a lot of places, kindergarten is not required. It's not compulsory until the child is 7 years old. You have to register them for school. And so it felt like kind of a free year to just try it and see, okay, let's see how this goes. But I thought for sure in first grade, I would send him to a school. We weren't sure what that would look like. But that year is really all it took to fall in love with the lifestyle for us. And we hold it loosely, and it's something we have to reevaluate every year with every child, but it's hard to foresee a time that we won't be homeschooling because our family has just loved it so much. It's been one of our best parenting decisions.
I love that, which I'm assuming, we see so often. We get hundreds of emails a month about people who are like, I work full time. Our life is not set up to homeschool. How in the world can you even do that? Could you share like what it was like in those early days? You were still an RN, I'm sure, balancing life and mom and wife. Any wisdom to those parents who are like, I want to make that leap, but it just seems almost impossible?
Yes. Good question. So during that time, at first we got a boxed curriculum that I actually really loved, but it was requiring a lot more time than was probably necessary for a kindergartner. So it was like 4 to 5 hours a day, which just wasn't working. So we kind of neglected that plan early on because I saw he was getting what he needed in such a shorter amount of time. So 2 hours or so, or maybe even less of focused school time, and then we could move on with our day. So the way that I did it was to rearrange my hours at the hospital. So I would go in the afternoon and then work through the evening and do an 8-hour shift. It was definitely not convenient because I would come home at around midnight and then be up with the kids in the morning. So we had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and was pregnant at the time. So it was
God bless you.
Honestly, I don't see how we made it through that season, but now I look back with such sweet memories. And, it was a struggle some days for sure, but it is possible. And if you work, especially remotely, there are times, you can be flexible about your hours. Our kids, so I work from home now, doing Brighter Day Press, and our kids have an afternoon rest time every day. They don't nap, but they are quiet and alone for about an hour and a half. And it's pretty amazing what you can get done even in that hour and a half if you really set your mind to it. So I think we just adapt, and every morning we just pray that the Lord will guide our steps for that day that we have. But again, it doesn't have to take a whole day to homeschool, so there can be some flexibility.
I love that. I'm sure the type A personalities are like, what do you mean you don't plan 6 months out and a year out? And you've said it twice. You said we reevaluate every year, but you also reevaluate every day.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of homeschooling and having the ownership of your time is you get to kind of slow things down. And so for those parents who are listening, who are like, I need a plan, listen, you know this, Whitney, you cannot ever plan for what the Lord's going to give you grace for that day, but his grace is sufficient for you in the moment that you're sitting in. And I think that that's encouragement with toddler at home with 4 kids at home. I mean, you're doing it all, and the Lord gives you the grace for that day. So you walked away from being an RN, or maybe you still do that part-time, but now you have Brighter Day Press. So I would love for you to kind of like what is Brighter Day Press for those who might not be familiar with it?
Yeah, so we create gospel-centered, literature-rich curriculum for families, and it started back in 2020. So we had just moved to Texas from North Carolina for my husband to be in a new church here, and the worship pastor there, and everything closed down. And it was like, okay, what are we going to do? I thought I would probably go back to the hospital, and then nowhere was hiring because, for a time, everything was kind of shut down. So all that to say, I had an idea to just write down our morning time plans that we had kind of adapted over time and found were really bearing fruit in our family. So a Bible reading plan that's just very doable with children, singing a hymn together, because hymns are just such rich theology that just echo through your mind throughout the day, doing a little bit of scripture memory. And then for the homeschool aspect, adding in composer and art study. And so I kind of threw up a website, taught myself how to format all these things into a digital download, and released that morning time plan back in June of 2020. And other families joined us and were like, yes, this is what I've been looking for too, to just gather our family in the morning and have this intentional time that really bears fruit. And so from there, we've done holiday unit studies that are all from a biblical worldview. We do watercolor classes, and some of those weave in biblical teaching. So we have like the days of creation or the days of Holy Week. Pretty soon we'll have the fruit of the Spirit and also the armor of God. And so they're learning to paint, but they're also learning this biblical truth and in kind of a multi-sensory approach. So really what I wanted for my own family that I couldn't find, I just made. And isn't that how most businesses start? And so I love it because we actually use these things for our own family, but then we share them with others as well. And so I mean, over 50 products now, different resources. And our goal for all of them is that they are beautiful, they are biblical, and they are manageable. Really not in that order. Biblical, beautiful, and manageable for families like ours who want those things in their homeschool. So that's kind of our story. And there's just more being added all the time.
That's amazing. Let me ask so you just woke up one morning and said, we're going to create a product and we're going to start a business. Is that what happened?
Basically, I don't think I foresaw it being a business. I thought this is a fun kind of part-time thing, but it grew into a business very quickly. And actually, as of last July of 2023, we found ourselves, we had a few part-time employees, but we needed someone full-time. And so we were able to hire my husband. So he came home. So this is our thing. We homeschool together. We work together. I'm kind of the face of all of it, but there is a team behind me that is so supportive. So
I love that. You're living the dream, right? Every mom is like, yes.
I am.
And please tell everybody you're just a normal mom homeschooling her kids that lives in Texas.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, there are days like when I think about balance, it never really feels balanced. At the end of a lot of days, I'm like, I spent too much doing this one thing and not enough time doing this one thing. And so that's where it's really essential that we are on our knees every morning and just asking the Lord to guide our steps and to make our priorities right. Because I could spend, 50 hours a week working and neglect my own family, or the other way around where I feel like God has given me this task. It's just about obediently walking with him. And so it's absolutely a challenge. There are days I lose my temper, I lose my patience. I feel like, are we even getting anywhere? When attitudes are bad and including my own, like our days are not perfect. But when I worked as a nurse, and that was a challenging season too, because I wanted to be home with my kids. But I enjoyed working as a nurse and it was necessary for us at the time. But I always thought, okay, I am so blessed to be always going to somewhere I love. So I'm either driving to the hospital where I love or driving home to my family who I love. And so in this way, the business and homeschooling and my family and my church and all of these things are things that I love and energize me. And so it's just a gift.
I love that. That's so good. And I can attest, like, I think when I met you in Fort Worth, your Instagram I told you that your Instagram's stunning. Your website looks beautiful. Like every millennial mom would drool over your like branding on your Instagram and all of that. So you've done an excellent job, but I love how you're so quick to get into the realness of all of it. Like, yes, the Instagram looks great. Yes, the highlight reel looks exactly like it's supposed to.
Right.
But there's moments between all of that. Because I know a lot of parents listening, they're like, I just wish we could all have our morning time.
Yeah.
That my children would wake up and sing hymns so beautifully. So even in your own morning routine, like, can you talk about how your kids interacted with it? Is it this beautiful heavenly time every day, or what does that look like?
No, far from it. So it has honestly taken us a long time to get into this rhythm, years, in fact. So this was our 6th year of homeschooling, and actually just this year, my oldest son said, I think we finally found our rhythm. So 6 years in, and so I talk to people all the time that have been homeschooling, 6 months and feel frustrated because their kids aren't paying attention and what are they even getting from any of this? And I just have to say, be patient. There is fruit when you are just consistent over a long period of time. And so these days, our morning time is much more peaceful than it was even 2 or 3 years ago, because they are older and they are understanding the expectations. But also we've had to adapt, because we used to start with our morning time. We would start our day and then they would dive into their independent work, like their math and language arts. And we were finding that a lot of times our morning time would go so long that their attention spans were done by that time. So we've kind of adapted over time where actually morning time is the last thing that we do as a family. And so they get all of their independent work done first, and then we gather around 9 or 9:30 and spend an hour and a half doing our read alouds together, doing all of the morning time things. And so that has made a big difference for us. But there are still absolutely days that I wonder if they're getting anything from it. And yet having an 11-year-old now gives me a perspective that I didn't have when I had really little ones, that I'm seeing fruit over time. Like, his word never returns void. And I've seen that more here than ever. Even our 5-year-old, he just turned 5. He's listening when we're practicing our memory verses, and they'll come out at the most random times when I didn't think that he was listening. I didn't think that he was taking this to heart. And so I think it's so helpful to remember that God cares so much more for your children's souls and hearts and minds and education than you do. And so if you're faithful and obedient to just put in the work, despite what's going on in your house, he is faithful and he's going to bring about fruit.
I love that. And I think that's so good, especially as parents. Like you said, it's a grind every day. Like, some days are survival days. We're getting to bedtime, and my goodness, that's the only goal for the day. But I find that if you're like willing to pause for a second, the Lord will give you little like signs of like, look at how sweet. Like, for instance, my daughter, 2 years old, she's in that. She looks at us and then goes and does the thing we're asking her not to do. Beautiful stage, but it just makes you want to pull your hair out.
Totally.
And the other day I ended the day and I told my husband, I said, I am just so tired of fighting all day. It's just a wrestle, constant parenting. And we wake up the next morning and she crawls in our bed and she just gives each of us this little kiss on the cheek and just rubs my hair.
Oh my
and
God.
I rolled over and told my husband, I'm like, you know what? This is the Lord's grace and goodness for these seasons that you're in. And I love that you're still feeling that at 11. Yeah. And we just talked to a mom at convention, and she's like, my 20-year-old is finally coming to the Lord. Like, wow. Parenting doesn't return void when it's submitted unto the Lord. And I think that we can hear it all we want, but until you really start to experience, you're like, wow, thank you, Lord. Like, this is your goodness.
Oh my goodness. And so much of homeschooling goes unseen. So you're not going to get a raise for the way you handled that discipline moment, or how well you taught a math lesson. Like, you are doing it unto the Lord. Like, work heartily as unto him, because he sometimes is the only one that sees it. And yet he rewards what's done in secret. And I'm seeing that over time, and rewards me with little glimpses of this just how my children are being transformed before my eyes. And it's not my work, but it's what God has used through just a lot of time. I feel like homeschool is really just an extension of intentional parenting. And so a lot of times, because we are very intentionally discipling our kids by spending so much time with them, that is ultimately going to bear a lot of fruit.
Yeah. I love that. And I think this can segue into convention a little bit, because one thing that you're probably equally as passionate about as me is like, don't do this homeschooling thing alone. If you have to spend all day with just your kids, and in your case, your husband as well,
yes,
it's beautiful, but you need people and you need your support.
Yes.
So you were at the Fort Worth convention with us, and we had thousands of families showing up. Did you have like a high takeaway moment of like what it means to gather together as homeschool families? Any wisdom or thing you want to share on that?
Yeah, I mean, just what you said, seeing thousands of others who are doing what you are doing day in and day out is such an encouragement. It's just inspiring to see, okay, I'm not in this alone. There's a large community of people that have these same values and are pouring our lives out for the sake of our kids. And so if that's the only reason to come to a convention, just to look out, I mean, it's great to hold the curriculum in your hand and hear from these people who are really experts in their fields and be encouraged in that way. But honestly, just seeing how many people are packed in there is an energy that cannot be really gotten any other way.
That's really good. I left there saying my physical tank is empty. Like, you walk a ton, you're beat, but my cup was overflowing with just encouragement and thankfulness, and that so many like-minded people chose to come together.
Yes.
And I love that there's people behind you who are just starting, or people who are one or two steps ahead of you. And there's tons of wisdom and kind of getting involved and getting in that. And you're actually doing a couple of workshops at convention. Can you give people just like a hint or a tidbit of what those are?
Sure. So one of them is called Navigating the Library with Wisdom. And I am just really passionate about this because libraries in 2024 can feel like a minefield as we're going in. And yet, more than ever, Christians need to be involved in their local libraries to preserve it for their communities. And so I give a lot of just really practical information, book lists, how to vet books, how to navigate the library as a Christian family, because it can serve homeschooling families so well if we are wise about it. So that's one of them. And then the other one is called The Sacred Call of Motherhood. And this is zooming out a little bit. So we're not going to talk about specific curriculum choices or homeschool methods, but why we do what we do and how to just abide in God's word in motherhood. It's a place for me to just encourage moms. And I love doing that through God's word and through my own experiences. And so that is one of my favorite sessions. So be sure to come. I hope you'll come.
Yes, that's an exact plug of what we need, what we needed. I just actually am halfway through because we sell the digital recordings. I'm halfway through your Sacred Call of Motherhood. And I just want to brag, like, you are so gifted at just like being real and getting into it. Like, and what I love about you is, when we pick speakers, we always want to make sure we're finding people who are encouraging, but not just like passive, like, oh, just do you, it's fine if you've got to feed your kids pizza 37 days in a row. Like, right. And I love, there is a call to like motherhood, and not only are you encouraging, but you call people up. And I think as a millennial mom, there's something to that, because you and I'm with you. I was in public school, mom and dad were divorced. Like, it just come from a lot of bumpiness. Yes. And the Lord is really empowering our generation to say there's a different way to do this. There's a different way to parent, and to do it under His grace, I think is so powerful. So we're out of time. But thank you, Whitney, so much for just sharing your wisdom here this morning. Guys, go and check her out, Brighter Day Press. Even just to admire her Instagram these days. I'm a huge fan. But thank you for joining us. Yeah, and we'll see you in like 18 short days or something crazy like that.
I'm so excited.
Awesome. All right, Whitney, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm leaving talking to Whitney the same way I did with the Addisons a few weeks ago. If you haven't watched that show, I feel so just encouraged. She's such a peaceful soul. So check her out, Brighter Day Press. I don't know about you, but I'm going to go dig into that morning routine, even for us as a family, because I think it's so powerful. So I want to shout out, I think it's the Kemper family. Dads need to come to convention too. Yes. There was something so powerful in Fort Worth about seeing mom and dad together with kids. Dads, even if you aren't the main primary teacher, which most aren't, come and support your family. Come and support your wife as she's getting encouraged, getting her cup filled, and making important decisions about homeschooling your kids. Come and be that support. Come and have a blast. Guys, right now, 50% off tickets. It does not get any cheaper than this. New 2024 is the code. It'll be automatically applied at checkout. Bring the family, bring the kids, bring the grandparents. Please don't bring the dog. It gets weird when people bring dogs. And we will see you guys in Houston for a full 3-day convention. We start Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. Tons of workshops, huge exhibit hall, dynamic keynote speakers. You cannot miss this event. I will see you in just a couple of weeks in Houston, and join me back here next Friday where I am talking with the president of Trail Life USA, Mark Hancock, talking about the fatherless generation and what Trail Life USA is doing to combat that. We'll see you next time, guys. Have a great week.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Texas Homeschool Convention Show.
We hope you are leaving encouraged, equipped, and empowered to take on this week as an intentional parent.
Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and never miss an episode.
No matter where you are in your journey, we are here to support you. Make sure to check out our website at conventions.thsc.org. Come join our community.
Did you know that we host in-person conventions each year in Texas? Join us in Fort Worth, Texas and Houston, Texas in 2024 as we celebrate 30 years of homeschooling freedom in Texas.
Use code SHOW10 for a 10% discount on your convention tickets.
This has been the Texas Homeschool Convention Show. Have a request for who you'd like to be on our show? Email us at events@thsc.org and tell us more. We always love hearing from you. We will see you next week.